I think that this year Munich Security Council conference concentrated on what seems like a return of the superpower competition in trade wars, in digital technology. I think 2019 is going to be preoccupied with those issues. In terms of Africa, the Sahel. Last year there was a discussion, a conversation around Sahel. This year there were about 3 discussions about the Sahel, and it is very important because the situation is very dire. And this year we were trying to see how we can harmonize the different strategies between the United Nations. The United Nations alone had about 17. We in the African Union, 17 strategies. So we in the African Union also are working on a strategy. So now we're going to come together and have one strategy. The G5 Sahel is a force that of 5 countries that have come together to fight terrorism and criminalities, and it's not doing very well. There has been some promises, and also another challenge is the proliferation of not only strategy of actors. So this year, I think the discussion was around trying to see how we can all work together, maximize on the help that we can distinct. So I think the return of the superpower, something that looks like superpower. Somebody was even talking about technology Cold War. That was an issue. Of course, the trade wars, and then the digital and cybersecurity issues and elections and so on. So those are some of the preoccupations. Okay, so there was an essay competition, and 3 young people came up with some of the scenarios. And I think the one I really like is a recommendation by one of the students where he says, perhaps it's time for middle powers to come together. This is thinking out of the box. I think we should give it a try. He was talking about middle powers like countries, Norwegian countries, emerging powers, even some African countries, to be inclusive, the United Nations reform, so that we can try to have another option apart from the order that is right now, and that seems, especially if there is going to be a superpower competition, I think that we need to expand and hear from middle powers, have some new, fresh thinking about some of the solutions. So I think that I like that. I like that as something that is actually quite possible. It's not tested yet. Of course, the superpowers, the P5 in the UN, are very crucial, and you cannot just put them aside. But all we're looking for is more inclusion. Africa, for instance, we are a continent of billions of people. Africa needs to have a voice. Africa has its own peculiar challenges, and we need to really work together. What Africa is doing right now is to have African solutions for African problems. But that's not to say that we don't need partnership or we don't need our development partners to partner with us. But it also means that we have to be talking to each other, harness the cooperation and collaboration. And we can only do that when there's an inclusiveness, when we listen to each other, when we have a transparent relationship where my issues is as important as your issues.